It's the Raw Meat Podcast, the most mediocre wrestling podcast on the internet. With the smart Greg Adams, the nature boy Jay Watley, and the hardcore icon Puff.
You know how I know my mic's on?
How?
I can see the processors down here.
Oh, that's good. Good news. It is the Raw Meat Podcast. Puff, as you've already heard, talking about his mic processor, and Greg Adams over here.
You know what that means?
No, I don't. What does it mean?
We'll talk about it off this
Oh,
thing.
okay. I thought you were going to say it means that Jay Watley's not here.
Well, of course not.
Because Jay Watley would be talking louder than all of us about things nobody cares about.
Although I enjoy it because I get to stretch out in this chair.
Yeah, I know. I took advantage. See, we have, because we are professional broadcasters, using the air quotes, we have access to professional broadcast facilities, which means we have plenty of space and plenty of chairs, and I've gotten a chance to, I think I've sat in every chair around the table here, and I had the same option when I was sitting where you are, and he wasn't there. That became my footstool. So thank you very much, Jay, for not being here a couple of times, so we were able to...
A couple?
Yeah, actually, I think... God, over the last, 5 episodes, I think he's only been here once.
Yeah, he's 1 for 5 overall.
Wow.
And we've done how many of these? 38?
I've lost count, but I was just thinking in recent memory of how many times he's been sitting over there, and it hasn't been many. As a matter of fact, he's walking by outside the, perhaps we will hear from Jay here.
Woo! Are we podcasting right now?
We are.
Appreciate the memo, gentlemen.
Well, you never show up or watch the television show.
I'm never invited.
We just talked about this, how long ago?
I'm never invited to
Literally
this. I don't
an
know when you
hour
guys do
ago,
it.
we were outside having a conversation. You're like, I can't do it today.
I never said that, and there's no way you can say that and believe that as it comes out of your mouth.
Totally can, just like I called the Ambrose Asylum, which we'll get into.
That
here.
is a load of junk crap, Photoshop baloney.
Don't be jealous. Don't be hating, brah.
I'm not jealous. I'm the one who's predicted everything correctly 100% of the time.
I don't think that's accurate. I don't think it's factually accurate.
It's unsanctioned half the time, but it happens.
We wouldn't know because he never shows up.
Right. Well, Friday we have a prediction podcast. Are you going to be here for your prediction podcast?
I'm right here.
Well, but for Friday, we predict the pay-per-view.
Well, if you tell me when you do it, that's all.
We just talked about it.
Friday!
Not when I walk past the studio and see you two in here talking. That's my invite. When I just happen to glance in and see you guys.
All right, well, are you going to pull up a chair?
I can't. I got to interview a band.
Okay, that's okay. So what did you think of last night's Raw?
Thought it was great. I thought it was one of the best ones since from WrestleMania so far. I love the time machine bit. I hated the Asylum bit only because Puff predicted it. And that just infuriates me 100%. Hate the vaudevillains. They can kiss my butt. I like AJ Styles using a chair for once.
Okay.
Thought that was cool. That's really all I got, guys.
Joe, you know what I got to say about your assessment?
Please tell me. It doesn't matter what you have to say about my assessment. And I'm gone.
All right. Thank you, Jay. Thank you. Jay Watley, ladies and gentlemen. Jay Watley. That's gold. I think we talked about it maybe not even an hour ago outside. Hey, we're going to podcast. And then there he goes down the hallway again. So whatever. Now that that's completely out of the way, we're 3.5 minutes into a podcast, and we haven't even really done.
This is like Seinfeld, the show about nothing.
It really is. But we do want to get into last night's Monday Night Raw. That's our purpose for being here. And as we just alluded to, we are going to do a pay-per-view preview prediction show later this week, Friday. That should be up online, and everyone will be able to check it out before Extreme Rules this weekend.
Woo!
But last night was the setup show for Extreme Rules, and like Jay said, it's almost like he heard somebody else say it. Last night's Monday Night Raw was probably one of the 2 or 3 best since WrestleMania.
I don't know if it was maybe since WrestleMania. Well, no, I think the first 2 after WrestleMania were pretty great, but last night was solid start to finish, which is pretty amazing.
And I think the way that you described it was probably pretty perfect. There was no one moment that stuck out and was just like this magical moment on Raw that we'll watch in highlights 2 or 3 years down the road, but from start to finish, everything was good. There was no down. Well,
Well, the Primo and Epico, but...
Yeah, there was one really big down, but thankfully they kept it short.
Well, the match, those guys are talented, but this is what? Their fourth gimmick. They can't get over. Just cut them loose.
Yeah, we will get to that one because that's a ridiculous little gimmick. So let's start at the top, though. AJ Styles comes out and cuts a promo on Roman, who interrupts him. They have a lot of back and forth, and it erupts into this standoff, I guess, between the club and I don't know if are they calling them the family still? Are they referring to them as the bloodline?
It almost sounds like they're trying to develop that into some. Like I said, I've said this last podcast. I'll say it again. After Sunday, there's going to be 2 new factions. I just don't know what they're going to be called in reality.
Are you still on the train of the idea that you brought to the table before of Gallows and Anderson turning on AJ and joining Roman Reigns?
I really don't know, honestly. And that's the great thing about the storytelling right now. It's in this place where you want to watch because you have no idea what's going to happen. And it's not just, they're lazy, blah, blah, blah. It's good storytelling, and it has you on the edge of the seat.
We can come back and park on the Roman Reigns, AJ Styles stuff as we get later into what happened on the show. But the first actual match we got to see last night was not the way that it ended. Like, we started with a Sami Zayn-Cesaro match. That the match didn't matter. I wasn't interested in the match. What interested me were the 2 guest commentators. When you had Miz and his wife Maurice sitting on one side of the commentary table and KO, Kevin Owens, sitting on the other side, that was magic.
They lost control of that broadcast within minutes.
See,
because Miz and KO, Michael Cole was trying to talk and Kevin it was awesome.
If I was in the truck, I would have cut JBL, Michael Cole, and Byron Saxton's mics, and I would have just let those 2 continue back and forth.
Well, I think part of the thing that made it so funny for me is every time someone tried to talk, they just start yelling at each other again. So that was part of the magic.
Yes.
Was the fact they just completely sabotage Byron Saxton, JBL, and Michael Cole.
And to me, the best part of the whole thing was when you had Kevin Owens. All right, Maurice, Miz's wife, is French. Kevin Owens, English is his second language. He speaks fluent French.
French Canadian, eh?
So to be able to have him talk junk in front of everybody at the broadcast table and the Miz, and there's only one person sitting there who can understand exactly what he's saying, that to me was like above and beyond. That's next level stuff coming out of Kevin Owens.
Yeah, that whole 30-second rant that he unloaded on her, whatever that happened to be, there was just dead silence from the rest of the broadcast table because they didn't know what's happening.
And the fact that it erupted into the ring, and then we have I think we had our best taste of the Shane-Stephanie dynamic as the fight between the 4 of them breaks out, and then Shane's music hits, and he comes out and gives us, and this is where I started to get upset, he set up the same tag team that we've seen 2 or 3 times now leading into this fatal 4-way at Extreme Rules for the IC Championship.
He Teddy Longed it.
And then we had Stephanie come out, who's still getting heat, and is still positioned sort of as a heel, but that actually kind of changed last night too. We'll get to that. But she comes out and she adjusts it and does what I never thought we would see it, and I'm very happy that they did it. I kind of wish that it would have been in a more built fashion, but the fact that we got to see Kevin Steen and El Generico tag team at a WWE level. You got Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn on the same tag team with the stipulation that if KO runs away, he's removed from the Fatal 4-Way.
The way they did it, I thought was perfect. I loved every last second of it.
And it was executed perfectly as soon as the match started, too. It wasn't just the quick build that they had that was pretty perfect. But, like, you were talking about just the way that they interacted with each other around the ring.
Yeah, the way they were tagging in and out, just slapping the hell out of each other. It was the way everything worked during that match, outside the match, before the match, after the match, was just phenomenal.
Well, after the match where Kevin Owens drops Sami Zayn, so everyone is down except for Kevin Owens, and then he screams at the official to come and raise his hand because he won the match too.
It was just awesome.
So the high that we were on after that match was quickly brought down as the Shining Stars were set to make their debut after non-stop vignettes. It seems like at least 2 minutes worth of them every single broadcast since WrestleMania. There may have even been a Shining Star vignette at WrestleMania. I don't recall. But I feel like this whole gimmick, the whole thing, is 100% because Vince or somebody in the family wants some land in Puerto Rico.
This just reminds me of Kofi Kingston circa 2000 or whenever he was making the main roster. They did the same kind of vignettes, the same kind of... Look, like I said earlier on, Primo and Epico are great in the ring, but they've had 3 gimmicks. Hell, they were tag champions at one point. But no matter what they do, they can't get over, no matter how good they are in the ring. And this gimmick's definitely not going to do it for them, so you're just wasting our time and theirs.
Yeah, and if you're going to have this gimmick, there's a guy at NXT who's only been there for 2 months, and he's doing the gimmick already better. Just bring No Way Jose up to the main roster now and park these 2 guys back down to NXT and call it good.
Just fire them. I mean, do us all a favor. It would work better for them. It would work better for us, because the tag division's already filled with tag teams. We don't need another one.
No, we don't at all. Big ups to Scott Jackson and Brian Kennedy, though, getting their moment on the main roster last night, even though it was a squash match. Dean Ambrose and Chris Jericho do the impossible. They make one of your off-the-wall wild predictions come true as we get our introduction into an Asylum match.
Yep. My insanity played out in front of all of us on screen.
And I don't know if you've got an insight into the writing room, if maybe you've got an extra gig. I don't know where it came from, but yesterday about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I've got the time-stamped text messages, and I will own my words because as you sent me the message that says, hey, I think there's going to be an Asylum match between Jericho and Ambrose, and it's going to involve a straitjacket.
My actual words is, I think it would be brilliant if they had an Asylum match between Jericho and Ambrose.
And my response to you was, that's too smart for their writing staff.
And what did I tell you in response?
That I need to be more positive about this kind of thing.
You need to have faith.
And maybe I do, because last night we see the steel cage come down with the Asylum built around the top of it, including a straitjacket. You nailed that one as hard as you possibly could.
Who could have predicted the potted plant, though?
The potted plant that's next level genius. I think there was a rake up there.
A mop. There was like a Hannibal Lecter mask. I don't know what you can do with that, but it's up there.
So we'll find out.
And the barbed wire 2x4.
Yes.
Let's not forget, because I'm sure they showed that for a reason.
Yeah, there were things they didn't show specifically up there that they're there for a smart mark to look at and go, oh, you remember why that's there? You remember the gimmick with this thing back then, blah, 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 blah. And then the rest of it is there to actually be used. And
they specifically showed the straitjacket, the mop, I think, the potted plant, and then at the very end, oh God, there's the barbed wire bat, and then went to a commercial.
Yeah. So again, kudos to you for nailing that one. That match has me pretty excited about Extreme Rules.
Yes. We can talk about this on Friday, but I think the 2 matches that are going to steal the show are this and then AJ and Roman Reigns, because despite Roman's work on the mic, those 2 have a chemistry and have made some great stuff in the ring.
I think there's actually, and we'll talk about it more Friday, I think there's a match. The Asylum match to me is going to be the one that steals the show. There's going to be a match better than the championship.
Really?
Yeah, so we'll talk about that Friday. We also got to see more Dana Brooke defeating Becky Lynch. What I took away from that more than anything was I am happy that we found out yesterday Emma is having back surgery. And Emma and Dana Brooke were pretty much a package deal.
Well, what I did read online is that was supposed to be setting up a tag match. Like it was going to be Emma and Dana Brooke versus Becky and a unnamed partner, but they had to call an audible on the fly.
Which I'm just happy that the audible they called was to get her. She had her own singles intro. She had her video package and some music going. She wasn't coming down to Emma's intro.
Not bad for short notice.
No, and I'm happy that she still has her place instead of going down, because I think she brings something to that division right now, as women's wrestling is having its renaissance period.
She is definitely a physical specimen.
Yeah, she has something that nobody else brings to the table. She's still pretty stiff, and she's not the best in the ring, but okay. She's not the best with what there is now. But if you dial it back 5
years,
10 years, and you put her in the ring, she's probably the best.
You know who she reminds me of? Like a mini China.
No, actually, I was going to say Beth Phoenix.
Yeah, well, I didn't watch during that era, but...
Neither did I, but I've seen enough footage to where I know what she was capable of, how she carried herself, that kind of thing. I don't think she's in the China mold, though, because if you watch what she did on her intro, doing that jumping cartwheel...
Oh, yeah, she's way more athletic.
Yeah,
but she's still as strong as a bull, and if she wants to, she can rip someone apart, which I like.
I think she has something that definitely will bring a new dynamic to the women's division. I really, really, really still truly strongly believe they need a tag division in the women's division at this point, because we've added another one. And yeah, Emma is hurt right now, so she's going to be off TV for a while. But when she comes back, and everyone who's already there, we've got a lot of women in that division right now who are not seeing any TV time at all. And all you have to do is create some tag teams, put someone like Summer Rae and Alicia Fox on a tag team together, and now you have a way to get those two on TV in the same amount of time that it took to get a Dana Brooke Becky Lynch match out.
Well, I think a lot of those people are going to get cuts on the next round.
See, I hope not. I hope not, because they're scratching the surface on something that could be big that hasn't been done yet.
I think they're going to ditch like Summer Rae, possibly Alicia Fox, some of the lesser used ones that aren't. Maybe Alicia gets saved because she's on Total Divas, but
I think there's still a place for them. I don't think they need to go that far yet. We finally got the culmination, including the vignette package. The intro music, everything that you could possibly want for the Golden Truth, came together last night.
Who got a huge pop? Like, I think they thought it was going to be a decent response, but I don't think they had one of the biggest pops of the night. And during the match, people were just going nuts.
I think that they have stumbled into something that they didn't realize they had. I hope they take advantage of it, and I hope they use it right. And then just when you thought it was going to fall into the same storyline again, because they get backstage and they don't want to be partners anymore because of what happened, and then you've got Tyler Breeze and Fandango actually playing the roles to a T. It is perfect in the way that they executed the backstage moment to bring the team back together. This is storytelling that doesn't involve a title.
What have I been saying for months? This is my favorite storyline. You kept, it's not going anywhere. I don't care, but it's fun. It has been fun. And now we're finally getting to a point.
Yeah, that's ultimately what we need to get to these points faster. Because this thing was running in a circle, chasing its tail, wasn't making sense.
But I think that was part of the fun of it. Honestly, like if they would have built this up and had them become a team in 3 weeks, I would have been angry and hated it.
Okay, so maybe 3 weeks is too short, but really we've been doing this for months.
3 months ain't bad.
I'm not a fan of that. I am, however, a fan of the New Day.
Well, just before we get off of this, not only, if we wouldn't have stretched this out 3 months, not only would the crowd response for the Golden Truth probably not been as big last night, but they accidentally stumbled into Tyler Breeze and Fandango, who make a great tag team.
Yeah,
let's just face it.
Here's what I want right now. And we will get to New Day in a second, but if you want a faction that has some traction already and has the mic abilities to get something done, and with what those two did backstage already, the groundwork is laid to get Tyler Breeze, Fandango, and a guy like Cody Rhodes, not Stardust, go back to Cody Rhodes and put him in charge of those two, and you have a faction now of pretty faces who are better than everybody.
Oh, I love it.
And can all talk on the mic. If you put those three together in a stable right now, you get a faction going with that.
And guess who's been missing since his match with Apollo Crews?
Well, Stardust has had moments where he's just disappeared for long periods and then
also
shows back up.
On his Twitter page, like his Stardust Twitter page, not his personal page, which you can stumble upon. He had a picture of him in his Stardust gear with only half his face painted.
Yeah, he's like Finn Balor and John Cena.
He
in
likes
that
teasing
way.
us, but
they like messing around.
I think the end of Stardust is coming soon. Unless they're building up for another run with Stephen
Amell from Arrow.
I think they might try to do that at SummerSlam again. But I think if that doesn't happen or after they get through that, it's the end of Stardust.
I would be totally down with a Cody Rhodes, I'm better than you, and you take those other two guys who already have the I'm better than you.
Oh, yeah.
And you put it all together and just it's like a fraternity. It could even be the frat could be their gimmick and just run them that way.
Hell, Dolph Ziggler could use another gimmick.
No, you see, I don't think Dolph is in that mold, though, because we've pulled the curtain back on Dolph enough that even the mainstream fans now view Dolph in a different light.
Yeah, true.
You could have done it a while ago, but probably not now.
I just want him to get in an important spot again. I feel so bad for him.
I do, too, but I don't know that he wants to be in an important spot. I mean, he's got the pre-show match with Corbin, which, by the way, that kind of, like, what are you going to have? You got to fill out a pay-per-view, and with as many weak storylines as there are right now, you're telling me you've got stuff that's already better than...
Well, I think instead of just tossing the U.S. title match on there again, they're like, look, all right, we're going to put the title match on the main show just as a big F you to Ryback.
No, I don't think it's that. I expect the title to change hands.
Oh, well, that
and
too.
I don't think they want it to happen on the pre-show.
Well, they had Kalisto beat Del Rio on a pre-show for the title.
That is true. I take back what I said. I still expect it to change, but again, predictions for this weekend, we'll get to that down the road. And we started to get to the New Day before we went off on that little tangent, but the New Day's promo last night had every single element of why the New Day is as over as they are right now. They came out and, first of all, they don't care about the crowd reaction.
No.
They don't need the crowd reaction. So that is something that separates them from pretty much everybody else. And then you add in this ridiculous level. And that's all these guys are. Their T-shirts are either a box of Bootios, an imaginary cereal, or the three of them riding a
unicorn.
Cartoon unicorn on a rainbow. They wear unicorn horns to the ring. They wear their own brand of socks outside of their pants. Like
Not to mention matching tracksuits, New Day tracksuits.
Everything about them is ridiculously over the top, which is why they work. And then to take it even another level, you have the Time Machine show up.
There's one part of this, when we get to it, that really just made me mad.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'll continue to run through my memory of what happened. And my favorite part was actually as Xavier Woods was unveiling the, what was the name of it?
The New Day Lorian. Which is while we're bringing this up, Michael Cole goes, who's Marty McFly? When they were talking about the DeLorean on the broadcast thing.
Is that the thing that made you mad?
Yes, I want to punch Michael Cole in the face harder than I normally do.
Everyone wants to punch Michael Cole in the face.
But I mean, I literally wanted to hurt him, maim him, make sure he can't talk for a living.
We just need to replace him with a fishbowl. But so they name it, and my favorite part of the whole thing was as Xavier is explaining it, Big E is naysaying the whole thing. Nope, don't do that. Do not do this.
We're not doing this.
Don't do that. And then the keyboard riff, where is that your parents' keyboard? Is the keyboard from your parents' house? Why is it sticky? Half the crowd got it, half the crowd didn't. That's what I want. And then they go into the Time Machine, and Kofi Kingston's Jamaican music hits.
Kofi, man.
And he does the boom, 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 and he does all that. And then as Xavier is ripping him back into the Time Machine, telling him we didn't go back far enough, he hits the line of the night.
Leave me alone. 2009 was a great year for me.
Then the Time Machine spits him out in the black and white, and Bootios are now derriere squares, and they have an old phone instead of a smartphone. They're all wearing mustaches, and
It was great.
And they explain that the bygone era sucked, which makes sense because the vaudevillains suck, so it all runs together, and they get jumped. Vaudevillains wreck them. They try to make it look like the vaudevillains are strong. I think that's all this was. This was another way for them to show, the vaudevillains could actually win this because, look, they just dismantled New Day.
Well, they could.
I
don't think they will, but right now I know that there was talk about the guys in New Day taking some time off. Who knows what the original plan was? If Enzo's actually cleared, you have your two new faces go after the title. New Day disappears, and then you bring them back after a month off or whatever for SummerSlam to start a program with Enzo and Cass.
I was gonna say I really don't know at this point how you get New Day off TV. If you do, maybe it's 2 weeks tops, because those guys are cash cows at the merch booth. They are, I don't know.
Or they take off in shifts. 2 of them go, 1 stays around. There's a way you could do it. Cycle them out.
Maybe. I do like what they've been doing recently in the new era of WWE. They're taking the matches that are the pay-per-view quality headlining matches, and they're putting them into the second hour or early in the third hour. They're not making it the end of the night. So the Usos with Roman Reigns in their corner taking on the Club, Gallows and Anderson with AJ in their corner. That match itself was pretty much as good of a match as you're going to get on Raw.
Well, the other thing I really enjoy, because they've had this match, 2-3 times now?
Yeah.
They actually threw some new wrinkles in there. It wasn't the same move set. One of the Usos, I could never tell which one's which, hit like a corkscrew senton moonsault. Carl Anderson hit a couple of new moves.
Yeah, he hit him with a rocket kick.
Gallows had a couple of new moves that he hit him with. I mean, it was a good match.
I appreciate the fact that Carl Anderson fights strong style, that he brings the Japanese. It wasn't. There was talk when Hideo Itami first got to NXT that he was going to need to spend a lot of time learning American style. That was the same thing with Finn Balor, is that he was going to have to learn American style. And the excuse is as to why Nakamura is at NXT, because he has to learn the American style. Carl Anderson doesn't fight an American style pro wrestling. He still fights with the Japanese style. And to see him hit some of those Japanese-style moves and some of the way that he carries himself in the ring, I want that to change the game.
I think not to defend the WWE, because I think it's stupid Nakamura's in NXT, unless they're going to drop the belt to him so they can bring Finn up. But I think their big knock against Nakamura, I can't speak for Finn Balor, was Japanese in-ring storytelling is a little bit different than American. It wasn't necessarily his moveset, or it was the way they tell a story in the ring that they were trying to clean up a little bit. But
well, either way, Carl Anderson is bringing a lot of that Japanese style into the WWE ring. I appreciate it. I enjoy it almost as much as I enjoy seeing AJ Styles finally become the AJ Styles that we've been asking for. Yes. Even though it was only for a short period of time and we haven't seen the official change yet, but he takes a chair to Roman Reigns, and not only does he take a chair to him, he hits the Styles Clash on a guy who is pretty much twice his size.
Hey, look, AJ is a lot stronger than people give him credit for. His big thing is when he has a guy Roman's size, the guy he's doing the move on has to help him a little bit. If you notice, when he got him up, no problem. But when he was trying to hook his legs around his arms, Roman gave him zero help.
And Roman also, when he went down, he can't get the elevation. So he can't turn the body of the guy that he's dropping as much as you would hope that he could. And what I started to realize after I watched the replay 2 or 3 times, when you put a chair under a guy like that, that's dangerously close to like smashing your clavicle on that chair. And even we've seen a rash of injuries. Even these guys are in great shape, and girls now, as Emma hurt. That's something I fear on that kind of move. Is even though the move is relatively safe as far as everything they do, but there's just that element of if you're not gonna help, If you're not helping the guy who's performing that move, you run the risk of injuring yourself, and that's as close as they got last night.
You know what, though? If Roman broke his clavicle, to hell with it.
I know. You would be ecstatic.
Well, look, like I've said this, I'll defend Roman as a performer in the ring, but as a overall sports entertainer, he's horrible. He has no mic skills. If he's not into the match, that's the one good thing I can say about AJ is he's kind of brought, a fire back to Roman a little bit. But if he's not in the match, he doesn't help. He'll forget which arm's supposed to be injured. He's just a terrible storyteller, which is the main focus of the job.
And I guess that's a lot of this is coming back to the storytelling because Roman is actually good physically in the ring. He can do things
He's a gifted guy.
Other people can't do. He's kind of getting better on the mic in shorter doses. He can actually carry himself now.
Well, if you've noticed, they've limited his promo time to either quick backstage segments or 60-second or less mic time, like interrupting someone or having someone interrupt him.
Well, what I noticed last night, and this is dialing all the way back to the beginning of the show, is AJ is bringing out the best in Roman, and I don't know if somebody had to tell Roman if there's actually some beef, because out of everybody that he's dealt with so far, there seems to be legitimate beef in his words with AJ Styles. And maybe he's just getting that much better. Maybe somebody finally broke through with him and got him to understand where he needs to be on this.
If we're going to be force-fed him, God, I hope so.
Well, yeah, and maybe it's the crowd that's finally getting to him, because even as for me, like I look at it and I project myself, I feel like perhaps I, in my personality, may be a lot like Roman Reigns, because he is way laid back, way too laid back of a person for the role that he is trying to play right now. And a lot of his personality is coming out in that. Like, he can't get mad. He doesn't get mad. And for me, I'm thinking to myself, if I'm a guy who gets to go do something that cool and travel the world, and I'm the guy, and I'm told that I'm the guy, and I'm knocking down millions of dollars, what do I have to be mad about? And he doesn't have anything to be mad about. So if he could actually find something, and whether it's the crowd negatively reacting and he brings that in and turns that into his anger, whatever it is, he just needs to find that anger and spew it. And he kind of sounded like he was getting there last night.
I'm sure getting booed everywhere you go by thousands upon thousands upon...
No, hold on. Omaha cheered him. Everywhere but Omaha.
Okay. He's big in Omaha. Good job, Roman. You're really hitting that core audience, buddy.
I want a shirt that says everywhere but Omaha. I just want to...
49 out of 50 states hate your guts. The one you got is Nebraska.
Boo this man. Hashtag everywhere but Omaha. But that whole match devolves into basically a chair shot fest. Well, no, first it was a super kick party with the Usos. Then it was a chair shot fest, and you ended up having a moment. We know the rule when it comes to the heavyweight championship.
Don't touch the belt.
If you touch the belt before your match and you're the challenger, you will not win.
No chance.
So you have the moment where AJ walks towards the belt in the ring like he's going to pick it up, and he stops himself and turns and walks away. Now, that's either good writing for the Smarks, that's either good in-ring storytelling and subliminal, again, back to the smart marks, but AJ's an internet guy. AJ knows what's going on the internet.
And AJ's been in the business and is really good at his job for a really long time.
So either he chose to do that, the writers told him to do that, or it was a happy accident that he looks at the belt, almost motions towards it, turns and walks away, and then just tells Roman Reigns, which was not on mic, and the camera just happened to catch it, but I'm going to take your belt, believe that.
I love it. That's what I mean, though. That's great storytelling, little tweaks every week, which is what you got to do when you're building to a big thing like this. Little tweaks, until the thing finally hits its mark, and we're hitting stride, baby, going into Sunday.
Getting pretty close. Getting closer than we've been in a while. I'm actually happy about that. Big Cass taking on Devon and technically Bubba Ray Dudley. It was the way that they set this up backstage with their promo and the way that they set it up in the ring and on the mic, new era versus attitude era. And if it needs to come to this, if maybe that's what we get, because we got enough Attitude Era guys rolling around still. Even if you take some of those guys' ruthless aggression style, like a John Cena, and try to work them into being with the Attitude Era guys, you could make something out of New Era, Attitude Era. The way that they did the match, where Big Cass comes out, starts cutting an Enzo-type promo. He was dropping Enzo riffs against the Dudleys.
He was pretty good, too.
Then, just as he gets to the apex, just as he hits the point where he's going to spell it out for him, the Dudley Dynamite completely blows it up and cuts him off, which it appeared in the storytelling the way that it pissed him off. Then they go to pull the table, and he hits him with a big boot and the East River Crossing, which, by the way, great finishing move for a 7-footer.
Especially when you can do it, because Devon's not a small boy.
No.
He's got to be, what, 240, you would say?
Oh, more than that, 260, 270.
I was just being generous, but he hits a 240-pound guy just swinging him around like he's nothing. It was great.
Yeah, if you want to make him look like a giant, that's how you make him look like a giant. Then he goes to the top of the ramp and finishes the promo from the intro.
Yes.
That is good storytelling. And that's what, when we start this podcast, we talk about last night was good front to back, with a few small exceptions. Usually when we walk away from a Raw and we say how great it was, there was like 1 or 2 early matches, there was a crappy second hour, and then a really good headlining match.
Yeah, generally a good Raw is like one good thing an hour. Like one thing that gets you through the hour. There was something every segment, minus Primo and Epico.
Well, and then the other slightly down moment was the Alberto Del Rio Kalisto match, which Kalisto is the botch master and even botched his intro last night.
He's been botching his intro. He just didn't even get out the gate this time.
He got 4 seconds out. He stops after his run at the top of the ramp and falls on his butt. Really?
I don't know if he needs a new mask or if the pressure of being a champion is too much for him, but
I don't know, because there's every third match from the guy
is great.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And then you have to settle with those 2 matches in between where he's going to botch something and almost kill someone.
Well, the bad part is a lot of his big mistake matches have been pay-per-views. Like the WrestleMania match was a solid match by some miracle. But, I mean, you look back at, like, there's a reason he's been on the pre-show and it hasn't been Ryback.
Well, it has a little to do with Ryback, but
probably the last one.
What was most impressive to me was and it was impressive, but it was also annoying. You have Rusev jump Sin Cara in the back, and instead of it just being something where, you know, the TV audience sees it, and then the live audience and the guys in the ring see Rusev drag a lifeless body out. That's what I would have wanted to see. But instead, you have the big screen, the Titantron, switch over to the assault in the back, which to me, like, we suspend a lot of disbelief. And that was more than I would like to have suspended as far as disbelief. I would have liked to have just seen Rusev drag Sin Cara or fireman's carry him to the ring and just drop him in front of Kalisto in the ring and go, now what?
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I don't know. Sometimes they make poor choices.
Yeah.
And it was a minor, in the grand scheme of things, minor thing we can tweak going down the road.
And the Kalisto, after the match, which Kalisto loses to Alberto Del Rio, non-title match though, and then Rusev comes into the ring and puts him in the accolade, whatever he calls it now. That is not a good submission move for a guy who's 5'5", because there's not much to bend, and it doesn't really look that painful. And Rusev was sitting into it and twisting him as hard as he could, and it just looked like he was doing yoga. It really didn't look like he was getting hurt in any way. I was expecting DDP to come from under the ring and just start coaching. But if that's how the match is going to end on Sunday, it's going to be less than stellar.
I don't care, as long as they take the belt off that little bastard.
And the evening ended with, this might be the first time I'll have to go back, and maybe there's another Smark listening who can actually like message the Facebook page and let us know. This may have been the first time ever that a women's contract signing ended Raw.
I want to say it's not, because I seem to remember there being one maybe for the WrestleMania match. Possibly.
Maybe there was, but
because I remember there being some other big women's moment that closed the show. Maybe it wasn't a contract signing, but there was a big women's thing, and we're like, wow, that's different.
Well, and ultimately, whether it's the first one or not, it's rare enough for us to actually sit back and go, we're having a conversation whether it's the first time or not. That's how rare this is, that you had a contract signing wrap up the go-home show for a pay-per-view. And the way that it was executed and the way that it was done was pretty perfect. Natalia's not the strongest on the mic, and sometimes Charlotte can lose herself on the mic, but guess what? Ric Flair used to lose himself on the mic, too.
Actually, she did a Raw is Jericho podcast, and she said the biggest advice from her dad was, no one knows if you're lost. Just find your way back home.
Right. And I think what Rick did well, still does well, Stephanie does it well, and I think Charlotte's learning it. Blame the crowd.
Yeah.
Even if you start to lose yourself, just drop the mic and look at the crowd, because they're always doing something, and when you give them that moment of satisfaction, they're going to get louder in whatever it is that they're doing. Rock was great at that too. You can go back and watch some Attitude Era stuff. Rock will lose his way sometimes, and he'll just look at the crowd.
Well, look at Triple H. He takes big dramatic pauses, but most of it's for I trying to think of what's coming next. But he always kills it because he takes his time and is very deliberate, which is, I think a good thing for maybe Roman Reigns to learn because if you notice, he tried not to go back to bashing Roman, but I am.
You need to be more positive about Roman. You need to have some faith.
Hey,
how's that taste?
What I say? I would defend him as an in-ring performer until the day I die. It's everything else he sucks at. But, he needs to sit down with a guy like Triple H or The Rock or Ric Flair and learn those skills.
I don't even think he needs to sit down with them. What would actually probably benefit him is to sit down with the network. It's only $9.99 a month. And be able to watch
all right, Byron,
nonstop Rock Attitude Era Raws. Like, just to see him cut a backstage promo, to see him cut the in-ring promos. Like, just watch as much of that as you can and try to learn. And the way that Charlotte, the crowd was reacting in two different ways because it was a North Carolina show. It's Flair country.
Yep.
She had a built-in base. She was pandering to the crowd. It was easy to do. But she's the heel. So the crowd is trying to boo the bad guy when they're supposed to, but then she's feeding off from their natural Flair instincts, and it got kind of confusing even for her a couple times in the ring where she was saying things to get booed, started getting the boos, and then reacted to them, don't boo me. Like, wait.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to hate the city you're named after.
Well, okay. What they did last night was magic as far as that went. But what was next level was the way that Stephanie owned the whole thing. Now, we've been teetering on this weird idea, and when Jay does show up, he talks about the fact that he believes Shane and Stephanie are going to get along for the long haul. That this is going to be the thing. There's not ulterior motives. They don't secretly hate each other. This is going to be a lovey-dovey fest for a long time. You don't?
No, there was even a couple of jabs last night, like during the Ambrose thing. Like, how come you didn't tell me about that, bro?
Yeah, but I think that's like it has been pretty sibling rivalry so far.
Well, yeah. I don't think I think for at least maybe another month or two, that's the way it's going to stay.
As good as Stephanie is at being a heel,
she's really good at being a face.
She is extremely good at that. If you want to talk about the pandering to the crowd cheap pops, she's the queen of it.
What she made fun of Shane for doing the same thing to open up the show, which I thought was hilarious.
But that's what she does, and that's why it was confusing with her a couple of times in the authority role, because she would come out as the authority villain, would get some cheap pops, and then how are you going to boo her after it? It was sort of what Charlotte did last night, but she interrupts the Ric Flair, by the way. Ric Flair is trying to be hardcore and it is looking like he wants to fight Shane. But I can't help but laugh. It's so freaking funny. And I don't know if it's supposed to be. I don't know if Rick thinks it's being funny.
Probably not.
Maybe not, but the rest of us do. We enjoy it because of that. But Stephanie catches him with a cupped hand thunderclap across the dome. And actually, I think she got less of the face than she anticipated and got more of like the nose, which I expected him to bleed because that's what flares do. But she steps off from that hit. He does the flare wobble a little bit. I want him to take one more step and do the spin and drop. I understand he's too old and can't do that. He took 2 steps back and then did the flare flop.
I love the flare flop.
And she walks back to the ropes and chills out like she owns the place, which I guess
She
technically,
does.
and starts getting the Stephanie chants. That's probably the first time that we've had Stephanie chants in
A decade?
maybe not that long, but it's probably
When was the last time Stephanie did anything face-worthy that would get her a chant?
during the Divas Revolution. That was
All
the
right,
last time.
I'm nixing that from my memory. When was the last time before that?
We're looking at probably
SmackDown?
pre-WrestleMania 30, pre-Daniel Bryan storyline, is probably the last time that she was in this type of position within the company.
Damn.
So it's been a minute, and she got that chant, and it almost died. Like, it was strong, and then it died pretty quick because I think there were people realizing what they were doing. Like, hold on, wait a second. Are we supposed to be chanting her name right now? I still feel like she's the bad guy.
This makes me feel funny.
I know. I don't know how I'm supposed to feel inside right now, but that's how Stephanie makes a lot of people feel.
Well, I know how she makes me feel.
All right, we're gonna have to jump in our new DeLorean and get
Has it
out
been
of
an
here.
hour?
It is. It has been just under an hour.
Dear Lord, you talk a lot.
Somebody's got to carry the show. But we will be back on Friday because we will have a Extreme Rules pay-per-view prediction show, which
And a review of Camp WWE.
yeah, that, and we can maybe work in an Edge and Christian show review because the season's over. So we'll be able to recap a lot of that. There's a lot of stuff going on the network right now that if you don't have the network, it's probably worth the $10 a month.
And you get the first month free.
And we're not getting paid for this. We're not. We can be shills for this all we want, and they're not going to give us anything.
Oh, maybe one day. WWE, if you're listening.
You just want a job.
Well.
But really, in all honesty, the pay-per-views, if you buy it through anywhere else, it's going to run you $70, $75 after taxes, closer to $100. And then if you wait around for them to pop up in full on your torrent site, I mean, you run the risk of giving your computer AIDS. It's just a lot easier to pay $10 a month. You see the pay-per-view, and you get access to things like Camp WWE, which is so adult, so insanely adult,
And phenomenal.
so good. So damn good. Edge and Christian show, way better than I thought it was ever going to be. They got the Holy Foley show coming, which looks good. I know you're just ecstatic to see more Noelle Foley.
In a wrestling gear rolling around. You bet your sweet ass I am.
And then there's something else on the network that's really good that I can't think about right now.
All the documentaries are just worth it in their own right.
And they keep updating those too, which is nice. But we will do a preview of this weekend's pay-per-view on Friday. We'll have our predictions. I still hold the belt. If you want that damn thing, you're going to have to beat me this weekend.
Totally going to happen.
Not when I pick the same thing you pick all the way through just so I can retain the title.
Well, you're not going to know who I'm picking.
All right, but that's going to wrap it up for us for today. We'll be back Friday. And I guess that's been the Raw Meat Podcast.
Raw meat. Like it, love it, eat it.